screaming isn't necessary for everyone to be heard. Robin Trower took an alternative road in a world where the guitar is typically associated with defiance, anger, and a cocky attitude. Peaceful, leisurely, and as profound as a wound that never fully heals behind the veil of time. He prefers to let the guitar handle the singing. The sound it makes is more akin to a reflective hymn than a triumph march. It is the work of a single, lone spirit that has been quietly but persistently struggling for more than 60 years. After the 1974 release of Bridge of Sighs, commentators began to hail him as Jimi Hendrix's spiritual heir. Trower, however, was not a follower. Not once did he mimic or repackage. A sad blend of blues, psychedelia, and his personal silent loneliness, he acquired by delving farther into an unnamed entity. The Fender Stratocaster he played didn't clap like a bolt of lightning. The smoke-like exhalation engulfed the listener's psyche, leaving no way out of the dreamlike state. Robin Trower's star never really rose. He's the type of artist who, once discovered amidst all the clamor and glitz, leaves an indelible impression. How did someone who avoided controversy, surprising remarks, and following trends manage to maintain such devoted fan bases? The solution is found in a path he has never strayed from, a one taken by a guitarist who chose to let his music speak for itself rather than sing or yell. A member of a working-class family with no artistic connections, Robin Leonard Trower came into this world in Catford, South London, on March 9, 1945. The father was strict, quiet, and hardworking. He was a mechanical engineer. His mom was a stay-at-home mom who was humble, quiet, and determined to make ends meet despite their few finances. There was complete silence in the house when it came to music, and no one either supported or discouraged Robin from pursuing his passion. A rare type of freedom was bestowed upon him by that neutral space, which neither pushed nor pulled. There are no presumptions and no instructions. For the most part, Robin's formative years were spent in the dreary seaside town of Southend-on-Sea, where the constant din of the waves frequently muted the sound of human speech. It stifled the development of many children. For Robin, though, it provided the ideal setting for an introverted lad who felt increasingly alone in a world that was too noisy for him. Neither football nor social events piqued his interest. Music was the one thing that could bring him into the here and now. He used his savings to purchase his first guitar when he was 14 years old. No one had ever taught him anything. From tuning the strings to learning riffs from ancient albums, he taught himself everything. Robin would spend many evenings by himself in his room, earbuds straining to pick up every nuanced tone as his fingers fumbled through chords. The guitar was more than just a piece of music. A safe haven it was, a venue where he could express himself beyond the bounds of conventional discourse. Early on in life, he looked up to Scotty Moore, who played guitar for Elvis Presley. BB followed, along with King, Albert King, and, in due time, Jimi Hendrix, a character who would thereafter loom large and ominously over his own music. On the other hand, Robin was never one to try to imitate his heroes. Even as a young man, he had a distinct style of playing the guitar, slow and flowing, as if the instrument were alive. This isolation only became worse as he got older. I have to go through school. His energy was sapped at social events. The guitar didn't lead to stardom for Robin. Because he had never felt at home in this world, it was his only option for escape. A working-class lad who spent his childhood observing rather than participating, Robin Trower discovered his first voice in the quiet of a coastal village shrouded in fog. Not with words, but with raw, heartbreaking melodies. Perhaps one day everyone would pay attention. Nevertheless, that day has not come. Robin had to keep playing games till she figured out his true identity, starting out in one's profession. The early 1960s saw a boom in the British youth music industry, and with it, hundreds of bands formed in places like Southend-on-Sea, industrial pub backrooms, and damp garages. The Paramounts were one of those bands, and they were Robin Trower's big break into the music industry. When the Paramounts were formed in 1962, they performed cover versions of songs by James Brown, Little Richard, Ray Charles, and Gary Brooker, who would go on to form Procol Harum. Their tight clothes, bouffant hair, and energetic rhythms encapsulated a post-war England attempting to shed its gray mask through American music. Robin Trower's guitar, however, has always seemed out of place amidst the upbeat lyrics and piano stabs. It is slower, moodier, and suggests something more profound lurking beneath the surface. He wasn't the main attraction, but he certainly helped bring in fans. Not because it was fast, but because each little solo sounded like a sad whisper in the middle of a raucous party. After signing with Parlophone, Paramounts put out a few singles and served as the Rolling Stones' opening act. However, they failed to achieve complete success, similar to many bands of the same period. The ensemble subtly disbanded in late 1966 because to changing listener preferences. It was more of a necessary pause than failure for Robin. His time spent playing rhythm and blues taught him patience, restraint, and how to work in an ensemble. Then, in 1967, a door that none had anticipated opened. He was extended an invitation to join the world-shaking whiter-than-white band Procol Harum by Gary Brooker. Robin didn't perform on that iconic recording, but he became an integral component of the band beginning with 1968's Shine On Brightly, their second album. Here, in a realm where psychedelia, classical structure, and existential lyricism all come together, Robin Trower was able to find his guitar's true voice. His Fender Stratocaster served as more than simply an accompaniment on tracks such as Whiskey Train, Broken Barricades, The Devil Came from Kansas, and Song for a Dreamer, which was a tribute to Jimi Hendrix. It joined the lyrics like a background noise, occasionally more ominous than the words themselves. However, he still felt an inward unease even at that pinnacle of his artistic achievement. Though innovative, Procol Harum's music leaned too much into the realm of the dramatic and the cerebral. The guitar couldn't amplify Robin's emotions. She needed something more primal. Feelings were at play. He departed Procol Harum in 1971, after the barricades had been broken, without any drama or conflict. An ordinary guy, after years of circling, who has finally heard his inner voice, fearlessly stepping out of their comfort zone. After that, Robin Trower would have a more central role going ahead. As he strung his guitar strings, he would transform into a storyteller. A turning point in her career came when Robin Trower left Procol Harum in 1971 and took the daring step of pursuing a solo career. During a time when the majority of guitarists were either associated with major bands or were lead singers, Trower went against the grain. In his music, he aimed to have the guitar play a central role as the protagonist and narrator. He began his golden period in 1973 when he and two other partners established the Robin Trower Band. Bassist James Dewar is often compared as a cross between Paul Rodgers and Ray Charles due to his soulful, smoky voice. You are Reg Isidore, an improvising drummer with roots in the Caribbean who provided a natural, organic quality to their blues music. Just three guys, three instruments, and no drama. However, the music they made lulled audiences into a deep reverie from which they never wished to awaken. Bridge of Sighs, the band's second album, rocked the critical world when it came out in 1974. It became a post-Hendrix blues rock landmark, sold over 500,000 copies in the US, and didn't even have a traditional radio success. Robin remained silent for the entire 35 minutes. A deluge of showy riffs was not unleashed by him. His playing was reminiscent of a man narrating a tale. His notes were long and drawn out, and his solos unfolded like inner monologue, floating softly through a dense but never overpowering ambience. Songs like Two Rolling Stones, Day of the Eagle, and In This Place went on to become classics due less to their intricate arrangements and more to the sincerity of each tone he extracted from his Stratocaster. Robin Trower was not Jimi Hendrix, despite critics' claims to the contrary. Boundaries weren't being broken by him. The depths of their souls were being probed by him. As Hendrix represented fire, Trower stood in for the warm, hazy smoke that persisted long after the fire had died out. Earth Below, 1975, Long Misty Days, 1976, and In City Dreams, 1977, were all releases from Robin following Bridge of Sighs. Commercially successful and further solidifying his distinctive style, a spiritually tinged blues rock that is reflective and adamantly resistive to trends. None of his albums were as influential as Bridge of Sighs. At the same time, Robin Trower rose to prominence in the United States, where she played to sold-out crowds on her unrelenting tour and was hailed as a phenomenon by guitar magazines and music journals. He could captivate crowds with just a Stratocaster, Marshall amp, and Univibe pedal, no stage effects necessary. Robin preferred unadulterated minimalism above the trendiness, excess, and attention-grabbing performances of many of his contemporaries. Very infrequently did he make an appearance on television or give interviews. He didn't say anything revolutionary regarding music or society. His ability to let the guitar do the talking set him apart from the crowd. When Robin Trower was in the height of his career, he wasn't exactly a chart topper, but he was the master at getting people to shut their eyes and feel as if the guitar were speaking directly to them. The success was not quantifiable in terms of units sold. It was a wonderful work of art, subtle but enduringly significant. Challenges throughout the era that is now largely forgotten, but every glare eventually fades. Robin Trower's legacy died out not in the midst of a scandal or a collapse, but via a far more tragic process, the gradual erosion of public awareness and respect. With the rise of new wave, punk, and disco, Robin Trower's slow-burning, introspective guitar approach felt out of touch with popular culture. Solos that last 7 minutes or meditative fade-outs are no longer appreciated by younger audiences. Something sleeker, noisier, or quicker was what they desired. Album sales dropped off a cliff despite his relentless output, e.g., Caravan to Midnight, 1978, Victims of the Fury, 1980, BLT, 1981 with Jack Bruce. Though emotionally and creatively rich, the music was out of touch with modern times. Industry developments were not the source of his greatest setback. Rather, it was a personal loss. The Robin Trower Band's lone vocalist, James Dewar, started having serious health problems in the late 80s. He was partially paralyzed after a stroke, and he spent the remainder of his life confined to a wheelchair due to a crippling form of encephalitis. When Robin parted ways with his musical collaborator, he also lost a portion of his own creative spirit. Their link as artists and interpreters was evident, but they seldom discussed it with the press. Not only did Dewar sing the songs, he became them. Complementing Trower's wistful guitar, toned beautifully. "I used to compose songs for James to perform," Robin revealed afterwards. "He changed the way I wrote forever after he stepped off the stage." Robin felt James Dewar's absence even before his 2002 death. Robin Trower was practically non-existent from the mid-1980s till the early 2000s. Mini tours only. Neither guitar player nor Rolling Stone has any major features. He played to more intimate crowds that were there to listen, not to see the latest trends. Not because he was spiteful, but because it just didn't feel right. He also declined multiple reunion offers from Procol Harum. Music had become more than just a career for Robin. It had become an integral part of her identity. Robin stayed true to while his contemporaries sought youth by working with famous people, experimenting with digital production, or following the latest fads. His signature Fender Stratocaster analog amplifiers, retro effects like the Univibe, and, most crucially, his refusal to attempt to update his sound for the present era. This rendered him unnoticed by the mainstream media, but it strengthened his bond with a devoted fan base that prioritized originality, authenticity, and creativity over commercial pressures. A lot of people thought Robin Trower had retired, yet he kept on writing and recording in the background, just like he always had. Something out of the ordinary occurred in the early years of this decade. All eyes were on him once more. Indie guitarists and purists of tone like Joe Bonamassa and John Mayer started praising Robin Trower as an obscure legend, a timeless artist whose work will always be in demand. So, that formerly outdated guitar sound started to reverberate, this time not as a passing fad, but as an emotional need in a contemporary society yearning for authenticity. At that very second, Robin Trower emerged from the shadows, not as a resurrected legend, but as someone who had subtly remained ever since. Private life, absence, is the best way to describe Robin Trower's private life. I don't mean that in a bad way, but rather as the intentional decision of a man who has long held the belief that music is best enjoyed independently of story. His private life, including his family, relationships, and home life, has remained mostly hidden throughout his over 60 years of performance. No pictures of the wife or children, and no tabloid rumors. No interviews regarding what happens following the show. Though his music, quiet, contemplative, and solitary, may provide the best explanation for Robin Trower's character, no one knows what kind of spouse or parent he is. Instead of writing about romantic relationships, he explores the void that remains when love fades. He doesn't write songs about mundane joy. He acts as though he is grieving the loss of an immutable possession. Many assume that Trower is married and has children, but he keeps his family out of the limelight, even if he has never officially acknowledged it. He formerly made his home in Kent, close to the water, where he often went on solo walks, practiced his music, and composed. He has alluded to a deceased lover in a few interviews, but he has been tight-lipped about the details and never revealed their identity. "I have found music to be the most dependable friend. Whether I was climbing or falling, with or without a companion, it was always there." Interview with Robin Trower conducted in 2015. Robin Trower avoided the pitfalls that befell many of his blues rock peers, including controversy, divorce, addiction, and bankruptcy. This was not due to his aesthetic or minimalist lifestyle, but rather the fact that he could always rely on his guitar. All the rest was background noise. He had a reputation for being reserved behind the scenes, avoid wild celebrations, and supermodel demands. Like an old buddy, he would stealthily leave the stage, head back to his hotel, and lug his guitar with him. Those technicians who have worked with him in his 70s attest that he continues to practice daily, keeping in touch with himself rather than competing. Maybe it's not Robin Trower's guitar playing that sets him apart. However, his entire existence revolves around that melody. He chooses to withdraw in this era of excessive exposure. He whispers, while everyone else cries out. While many people use their private lives as a springboard for professional success, Trower allowed music to protect her last remaining sense of solitude. Robin Trower, a mysterious man whose music transports you to a world of solitude, is someone you know only through his music, imprint, and perseverance. Some musicians are known for scandals, sold-out stadium performances, or high album sales. Robin Trower is one of those musicians whose legacy is defined by a single, haunting note, an approach to playing that is like holding your breath, and a solo that is neither too quick nor too flashy, but powerful